Welcome to episode 6 of the Warrior's Path podcast. In this episode, I want to talk to you about a few fundamental core beliefs that I have. I sort of built these off the back of the 4 Agreements, which is an amazing book that you should definitely at least listen to, if not read. But it's something that I will go back to every so often. They're just 4 agreements to how to live your life, to make your life better. And they're a great starting point. But what I think is important, you take the starting point, but then you also build upon that for yourself, for what you want to do with your life and who you want to be. So I've come up with 4 of my own. And I remember one day, I remember being treated badly by a friend in business, and I had helped them to create their business and grow it quite well. They're doing quite well. And I had another friend who's seen this interaction, and then about a week later, the guy who was didn't treat me the best asked me for another favor to do something for them, and I did it. And the other friend was like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why are you helping them? They were so rude." And I remember saying that I don't treat people how they treat me. I treat people how I would want to be treated. So just because they were rude, like for all I know, they were having a really bad week, a really bad day, and I just assumed that they were being rude to me, but they didn't even know they were. It was just they needed to get something done, and that was just their way of coping with it. If I had went with the other friend's idea, then I would have just shot them down and cut them off from my life forever. And they're still in my life now, and we still get on. We've actually talked about the experience, and there's been apologies and everything from it. But the reason I'm telling you this is it still comes back to letting other people control and dictate the way you live your life. If I reacted like this person wanted me to react, and how like they reacted, and still, as far as I know, don't like that person and don't want to have anything to do with them. If I reacted like them, then I would just be burning bridges and holding on to poison for myself. That other person probably wouldn't even know that I was like, nah. If I said no to the next thing they asked me, they probably just thought I was busy. Unless I, like an adult, reached out and said, this is how I feel and this is how I feel it should be dealt with, and had a conversation, which again, I didn't think I needed to, because I don't really care. I'm living my life for me. I'm not living my life for anybody else. So the way I live my life is dictated by who I want to be as a person, how I want my family to see me, how I want my clients to see me, just how I want to grow as a person. I know what I was like when I was younger, what I'm like now, and where I see myself going. And to get to there, I need to live the way I'm living now and continually progress and upgrade. So it's just something for you to think about. Like, whenever people treat you badly, do you then retaliate and treat them badly? So then we become reactive again, instead of someone who reacts with control, clarity, and personal understanding. So one of the agreements of the 4 agreements is to do your best. And I think that's a really important agreement. So I've got down here the power of your word. So I wrote here, like, words are like spells that you're casting. You can cast them for negative, you can cast them for positive. Your mind doesn't understand the difference, or doesn't know the difference between real and fake. So if you're telling yourself that you don't like that person's terrible, or even worse, you're telling yourself that you're a weak person, or you've always been this way, or you're never going to achieve anything, or you're not going to grow, your mind will believe that. So if your mind believes that just because you said it, imagine what would happen if you flipped that and you told yourself that you were great, that you're awesome, that you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. So if you cast that spell instead, so being aware of the way you speak to yourself, being aware of the way you speak to others. So if I worked in bars for a long time, and sometimes people were just so rude. And I was talking to a client the other day about this. I'm very good at cutting people down. Like, I did 13 years of bar work. I loved fighting. I loved getting into aggressive situations. So I got very good at it. It's not a skill I think anyone should have, but I got very good at it. And one of the reasons I think I got good at it was because I was comfortable in violence. So when people are being aggressive verbally, the only logical step is to go to violence. And if I know that they aren't going to go to violence, or if they do, I'm not saying I am now. I'm a lover, not a fighter now. I'm a man of peace, as my brother says. We're men of peace. Um, if I didn't believe that if it went to violence that I wasn't going to be fine, then because I believed I was going to be fine, what they said had no strength. It didn't mean anything. But because they knew I wasn't getting riled and I didn't care about it turning violent, what I said held more strength. So it was like, I wrote here that words are like swords. So a dull one is useless and a reckless one is dangerous. I've taught people how to use swords in the martial arts that I worked in. And even the people that were really bad initially were not as dangerous as the people that thought they were class and like just didn't really focus and just did whatever because they thought they were deadly. They just did whatever they wanted. So the same thing with your words. Your words can cut people deeper than like your violence, like physical violence, because we live with it. So whenever I think about that, I think it's more important for myself. So I'm going to treat you how you treat me, then you're in control. If I treat you how I would like you to treat me, then I'm in control. So being aware of the power of your words and what you say to yourself, and knowing that your mind doesn't know any different. So if you've just started the gym, you just started getting in shape, you've been listening to this and you thought, right, the one thing I can control is my physicality. So I'm going to become someone who's in shape. I'm going to get in better shape. If you started saying that instead of I can't do this, or I can't do this, or I don't know what I'm doing, if you started saying that I'm learning, if you're struggling with something and you say like this is a struggle, but it's only because I don't have the knowledge yet. Once I get the knowledge, it'll no longer be a struggle. You'll be able to move and progress faster. A lot of people get stuck in that this is a struggle or I don't know what I'm doing, and then they get stuck there and they don't try to pass on. They actually just, oh, I never deadlift. I was never able to do it. And I ask people, how often did you try? And they're like, oh, I went in one day in the gym and did it. Watched a YouTube video, tried it. Nah, I'm no good at it. And then we spend about half an hour, and because deadlift's one of the ones that you can lift real heavy after a while, people start to love it. So the actionable step is for you to pay attention to how you speak to yourself today. So the thing that I would do with clients is every time you say anything negative internally, you have to say two positives. So if I say something like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this today, like if I'm going to the gym and I'm tired and I go, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this today, I have to immediately break that pattern and say two good things. I've showed up. At least I've showed up. Like I could have stayed at home. I showed up. That's a positive. And I'm going to do my best. So even if I don't achieve it, I still did my best. If we just stick with that first one off, I'm not going to be able to do this, we're going to half-ass it, and then we're just going to go home and we're probably not going to be able to do it because we're not even really trying. So the next one I wanted to talk about is the unshakable mindset. So the warrior mindset is to be unshakable. So it's the easiest way to do this is to not take anything personally. I actually had this conversation earlier today as well. Probably why I'm doing this podcast. When you take things personally, again, you give people control. So the truth about criticism is it's never about you, it's about the person giving it. So usually the person who is criticizing you doesn't have the best life. They're not happy in themselves, so they want to cut people down and pull people down to your level. Negativity is such a strong magnet for people that they try to just pull you down. Whereas if you never take anything personally, we talked about it in the last episode where I was called bucktooth, I was called bald, and all sorts of things. If you don't take it personally, then they can't pull you down to their level. So if I say to you that you are useless and you believe that, then you are letting my opinion, and I don't even really know you. Some people I will know who's watching this, but like in general, most people don't really know you. You're taking my opinion as your truth. And I'm going to say that again. I want you to really think about that. My opinion as your truth. I say you're useless and you go, he's probably right. It's especially if you look up to someone. If you looked up to me and I tell you you're useless, you're going to believe that faster, and it's going to have more, it's going to create more depth in you. So it's going to be the knife, the sword that goes straight through, because someone you trusted, like a teacher, like a parent, like a sibling, like a partner. Like, we get this a lot whenever you work with people that are in relationships that they really should just leave, but the person has undermined them so much and molded their internal reality to match their external truth. So the external truth of the negative person. And when you do that, you sort of lose yourself and then you just get stuck. So this is about not taking anything personally. If I give you grief down the screen, if I say your hair is stupid. So the example that I'll actually use, whenever I worked in the bar, and remember I said this, back in the day, I was training, I loved to get into arguments and stuff. A guy, honesty and respect are really high in my core beliefs. So a guy in the bar asked for a drink. He was a bit drunk, so I refused to serve him. And he started insulting my mum. And when he insulted my mum, I just seen red, and I went around the bar. So I was going around the bar, and I don't know why or what was different about this day, but the length of time it took me to get around the bar, through the wee hatch, and face to face with him, it just dawned on me that he didn't know who my mum was. All his insults were just made up. He was just saying whatever came into his head to try to get a reaction out of me, and I got one. And in that moment, I just felt like such a dickhead. I was like, that useless drunk guy has just riled me up so much that I've went around. I could get fired. I could get arrested if I had done what I planned to do when I got out there. And instead, I just laughed and started agreeing. And whatever he said, I just agreed and agreed. And then I asked him, like, how do you even know my mum? Like, where do you hang out? What's the crack? Like, I don't know your mother. I'm like, well, that sort of reinforced my thinking. So if I had taken that personally, which I initially did, and again, I cannot explain why. I had been training a long time at this stage, probably about maybe 6 years. So it must have just been, it wouldn't have been 6 years, probably about 4 years. It must have just been in there somewhere, and something finally clicked and was like, what are you doing? This is so stupid. So not taking anything personally, from that day on, I just started to realize that, like, some things are going to slip in, obviously, but like everything, we are always aiming to do our best. We're always aiming to not get riled up, not get frustrated, but just sometimes your guard is going to slip depending on what's going on in your life. So when that happened, that changed the way I viewed my life. It also rapidly changed the amount of violence I was happy to get involved in. I started realizing that helping outdoor staff was stupid because they got paid more than me and it was their actual job. So the step that I've put up here for you, the actionable step for you to think about, is the next time someone criticizes or disrespects you, like, respect was such a thing for me that it was so easy to rile me. All you had to do was show disrespect. Pause, and instead of reacting, observe it and then ask yourself, is this about you or is it about them? If you want to do this today, then just think about the last time you were criticized or disrespected and you reacted, and think about how you could have dealt with that different. Was it about them or was it about you? So the third one is breaking free from your assumptions. Just remembered Under Siege 2, which I think is a great movie, even though it's terrible. Terribly great, that would be the way to word it. Assumptions are the mother of all fuck-ups. And the other one is assumptions makes an ass of you and me. Either way, assumptions are not beneficial because they're just made up. So I've wrote here, like, whenever you assume something, we're terrible at assuming positive. Oh, I assume they meant that because they think I'm great, or I assume it's going to go this way. We're brilliant at assuming it's going to go negatively or create conflict. So whenever you are in a situation, you're talking to someone and you notice yourself starting to make an assumption, instead of making an assumption, seek understanding. So the way we do that is we just ask questions. And all of these podcasts comes from different interactions. And I had an interaction, I had a conversation the other day with someone, and I actually pointed out that it was a really good conversation. We were both comfortable in the room, but it was a really good conversation because when I asked questions, they answered, and when they asked questions, I answered. And one of the things we talked about, she disagreed with me, and I asked, why do you disagree with that? I wanted to know what was the thought pattern there. I wasn't saying why are you disagreeing, I'm correct. I was asking, and that's what a conversation should be. I didn't assume she didn't believe what I was saying or didn't respect what I was saying. I just wanted to know what her opinion was. And I've had so many conversations throughout the years where I'll say something like, oh, I don't fully agree with that. Could you explain it a wee bit more to me so I have an understanding of where you're coming from? And the person gets their back up, and then it becomes like a confrontational style conversation. So instead of assuming, seek understanding. So that's the way I look at assumptions now. I just ask people. If I look at someone and I think they look like they're having a good day, I ask them, what's the crank today? What's been going on? How are you getting on? If I look at them and I think that they're having a bad day, I ask them, what's the crack today? How are you getting on? So if you're not from Ireland, what's the crack means, hello, how are you doing? I hope your day is pleasant. And what have you been up to, I suppose? What's the crack? It's just much faster. So instead of assume, just ask them what they mean, what they actually mean, or what's going on, and then just keep doing that. Keep reminding yourself that you're allowed to ask questions. Maybe look into some of Chris Voss' work, the negotiator. Never Split the Difference is his book. It's not just about negotiating, but it's about interacting and with people in general. Just look up some of his social media stuff. Even you can just get some quick snippets. So the actionable step here is to catch yourself. Anytime you catch yourself making an assumption, ask instead. Like, seek clarity instead of guessing. So the last one is number 4. So the warrior standard, always do your best. So I've wrote here, your best today won't be your best tomorrow, which you've heard a million times. The key is to give everything you have in the moment. So maybe if we use a level, so if we're 0 to 100, we're working 100% and 0's nothing. So 100% is all and 0's nothing. Maybe my 100% today is 100%. But maybe my 100% tomorrow is only 60%, but I still give 60%, which then becomes my 100%. If my 100% is 90% and I only give 70, then that's not aiming to do my best. That was probably terrible math. Some days you're tired, some days you're fatigued, some days you're super pumped, some days you're feeling strong and in the zone. Whatever way you're feeling or however things are, just aim to do your best. So that's what I try to do. And when I say that to people, I've done stage talks and I've done corporate talks and I've talked about this, someone will always ask me, does that mean you never fail or you never fuck up? And I have failed and fucked up more times than most because I'm willing to give things a shot that people would normally avoid. So I failed plenty and I've done things that I'm not proud of, and I've always looked back and went, right, did you do your best with the information that you had in that moment? So the information I had at the moment was, an example would be exercise. So we used to be told that you shouldn't sit in a W sit, so you sit with your ass on the ground and your feet out at the side, because it's really bad for the joints. And then it turned out that if you're flexible enough, it's totally fine. But I used to tell people that that's what you do, but that was the information at the time. You shouldn't do that. So I was going with the research at the time. The research has changed. So now, back then, my best was that knowledge, and now my best is this knowledge. So are you aiming to do your best? When it comes to setting goals, you don't have to be, I was going to say you don't have to be Linford Christie in it. It's a blast from the past. He's a runner for anyone. I don't even remember what he ran, 100 meters or something. He ran fast, I know that much. But that's completely threw me. You don't have to be bulling forward to your goal all the time. You can go at half pace as long as you're moving forward, you're still creating progress. So aim to do your breath. I was going to say aim to do your breath. I put the Bruce Lee quote, "Be like water, my friend," because I want you to be adjustable. I want you to just not look at yourself and think, well, yesterday I was able to do X, Y, and Z. I should be able to do that today again. Just look and say, yesterday I did my best and today I'm doing my best. Maybe I'll not do as much or go as far, but it's still as best as I can in this moment. So what I would like you to do at the end of today, so this is your action step for number 4. At the end of the day, reflect. So reflect on your best and ask yourself, did I do my best today? And if not, what could I do tomorrow to actually improve my best or improve my reaction? So a few actionable steps for you on top of those. So if you just want to go back, they'll be in the notes, but if you want to go back and look through, re-listen to this, get yourself acclimatized to these 4 habits or core beliefs or whatever you want to call them. So I want you to a word audit challenge. So spend your day just tracking what you're saying, who you're saying it to, how you're speaking to yourself, and what you're actually saying to people. The emotional armor drill. So the next time someone criticizes you, just pause and remind yourself that this is about them, not me. The clarity habit. So if something feels off in a conversation and you find yourself going to assume something, just ask, like, what did you mean by that? Rather than assuming, what did you mean by that? If they are someone that needs a softer approach, then say to them, like, I'm not 100% sure I understand what you're saying, so could you just explain that a wee bit better for me? So bring it on you. Don't. Some people will take offense to you saying, like, what did you mean by that? So bringing it on yourself just makes it much easier for you. And then effort over outcome. So focus on the process over perfection. So track your effort, not just your results for 1 week. So pick the habit that you're going to do. We talked about in the last episode, discipline. Pick the habit you're going to do and track it. So you're doing all these things, how you speak to yourself, aiming to do your best, all that. You're not trying to be perfect, you're trying to do your best, and there's a subtle difference there. So the key takeaway for today, the end takeaway, is the true power isn't about control over others, it's about control over yourself. So I used to get accused of being controlling because of some of the things that I did in my life and talked about. And I used to try to explain to people, I'm not being controlling in the way that you think of that as a negative. I'm controlling myself and my actions and how I behave. I don't care what anybody else does. It's on you. You do you. That's fine. I'm controlling my outcome by working on myself, on my medication. Actually, I refuse to take medication. I think I've taken 1 paracetamol in like the last 10 or so years. I remember even getting stitches in my back. Got hit with a stick and it gave me a wee cyst, and then I was getting it removed out of pure vanity. I was getting my back tattooed and it was going to be in the way, so I got it removed. And even the doctor, they gave me 11 stitches, which he initially claimed was only going to be like 3 or 4 stitches. It looks like a bullet wound. It looks like, he told me it wouldn't even be noticeable. It looks like a bullet wound. This is a complete segue story, but even the doctor, when he sewed me up and the nurse said, right, we're going to get you a few painkillers and get you on your way, the doctor just laughed and was like, there's no point, they're wasted, he's not going to take them. So there's a wee story for you based off me misusing a word. So, which is ironic because the next line I've wrote is, when you master your words, your mindset, and your assumptions and your effort, you become unshakable. So it sort of fits in with, you're not trying to be perfect, you're just trying to do your best, which is what I'm doing right now. So aiming to do your best, I think it's the number one. I think it's, if you always aim to do your best, you can't really go too far wrong. So if I was going to choose one principle, that's the one I would choose. But it's up to you. Choose a principle that we've just talked about that you can immediately incorporate into your life. And then feel free to write below and say, this is the principle I'm going with, Liam. And keep me updated on your journey. And yeah, just have a super awesome day, whatever you get up to, and I'll speak to you again soon.